Oh man, Moana 2 released just last week and it is already completely wrecked shop at the US box office. As a whole, Thanksgiving weekend 2024 was the biggest box office weekend of all time, only behind the release of Avengers Endgame, which, in fairness, will not be beaten for some time. Across all movies out, there was a total of $420 million made at the US box office at that time. So yes, Moana 2 was definitely not alone in this, but let's just take a look at what it has done. Oh boy, over the extended Thanksgiving weekend, Moana 2 pulled in a staggering $221 million. Even shrunk to the regular 3-day weekend, it still made $139 million. It is, unfortunately, the best opening in the history of Walt Disney Animation Studios. The third biggest opening weekend of the year, and it's absolutely no surprise. The original Moana was a decent enough success when it came out in 2016. It didn't quite crack Frozen money, but it did well. However, that's not why this sequel was made. The thing that got this one really going was actually its more recent stronghold on streaming. Just in the past year, 7 years since its release, Moana was the #1 most streamed movie in the world. And I can see why. Moana is one of the best modern Disney movies with a universal appeal that I think crosses all genders and cultural backgrounds. It's a solid sit-down movie for families, at this point nostalgic students, or even just sitting your toddler in front of something relatively gentle to entertain them. And I didn't just plug that last one out of nowhere. I've heard that a friend of a friend actually does that. Hey, at least it's not brain rot. Yeah, they just run Moana on repeat, so they've definitely contributed to those stats. So of course, naturally, a Moana 2 was going to be willed into existence somehow. Initially as a streaming series, which if you've seen my review, unfortunately is incredibly evident in the final product. However, from a business angle, switching gears to a theatrical release was absolutely the right thing to do. While people may have subscribed to Disney Plus specifically for a Moana series, I just don't think it would have had the same draw at all. It certainly wouldn't be single-handedly responsible for a $1 billion boost in revenue, which I am guessing this ultimately is going to be making at the box office. Although the response has been generally mid on this movie, so maybe it doesn't quite get there, and I also kinda hate this news for the message it's of course going to be sending, not just to Disney, but to everybody. Regardless, dollar is indeed coming in from having Moana 2 as a movie in cinemas, which is probably a relief for Dwayne Johnson after that Red 1 movie he did tanked. I wonder if he had a pee bottle in the voice booth as well. And of course it had to be Moana 2, but this project is of course still a massive win for Disney Animation after many years of flops. Honestly, when you look at Disney Animation's output recently, I don't know why Pixar's seen as the one that's having an off phase. Pixar may have had blips with Lightyear and Turning Red to a certain extent. They still brought out great hits like Elemental, whereas Disney on the other hand, we've had Strange World and of course Wish as the last two options. I mean, yikes. Anyway, of course, they needed this movie to do well is essentially the message here. However, considering its quality, I'm still not personally sold on Disney Animation being back yet, you know? I mean, their last true comeback gave us Tangled and Wreck-It Ralph. We need another one of those kind of levels of moments. But financially, at least, they are back in the conversation. Not that they were ever really doomed. You probably don't need me to tell you that this is not the only thing blowing up the box office at the moment. Nope, there's been another movie that's basically been impossible to avoid that goes by the name of Wicked. In its second weekend, when accounting for the extended Thanksgiving weekend, it made $117 million, which, whilst accounting for 5 days, is actually higher than its opening weekend. It is now the highest grossing Broadway adaptation of all time after just 2 weeks. Hey there, thank you for making it halfway through. Come subscribe if you haven't already. With Moana 2 also out, it's pretty impressive when you consider that the second biggest all-time box office weekend was achieved predominantly from 2 musicals. Turns out you don't have to be a superhero movie to get these numbers, and boy howdy, I bet the trailer people over in the marketing team will not get the message. They never showcase that their musicals are musicals, you notice that? Anyway, there is also a third player in the Coliseum in the form of Gladiator 2. That made $44 million, so, not the breadwinner of the bunch, but he did pretty well too. And so, although I ultimately found Moana 2 to be a missed opportunity, I think results like this are ultimately great for the cinema industry, not only because it has been struggling for so long since the pandemic, but weekends like both this and Barbenheimer last year encourage a greater diversity of projects. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely lapped up Marvel's dominance in the 2010s, I have some solid memories of it and it was a lot of fun. However, a box office where it's not just superheroes and I guess the odd subpar Star Wars movie is a lot more interesting. I mean, part of that is because they've not managed to actually get a Star Wars movie off the ground for the last 5 years. That's another story. In a year where there's also been some massive flops of well-reviewed movies, I'm still gutted for Transformers 1, it's great to see somewhat of a solid W for cinemas and animation. However, I still don't think it's all exactly birds and sunshine, because this isn't exactly like another Barbenheimer situation, because this isn't birthed out of entirely original projects. This is also sending a message that the way to succeed in the current form of animation for Disney, for Pixar as well this year, and you can bet all the others, DreamWorks and Sony are gonna run with it too, is chucking away original animation to the side and making all the more shallow, thinned out, overly extended sequel work. It doesn't matter about the quality, you can make far more money just by following a brand further and not even doing it justice. And though I'd love this to be the biggest version of a win for animation to see a success on an original story, you can bet that DreamWorks and the business as a whole is going to take the wrong approach, or learn that this is the right approach, and I'm just upset that it's wrong creatively. But then again, I guess that was the industry standard already. We've already received Inside Out 2 and this Moana 2, and upcoming we've got Toy Story 5, Shrek 5, Avengers 5, and Ice Age 6 coming in 2026, so... Great news! Why does it have to be another damn sequel? Can't wait for the next meteoric rise, which is remakes as well. The live actions will be what pushes us over the next year. But at least on the wicked side of things for cinema as a whole, yeah, that seems pretty grand to me. Being able to make a more legitimate event out of themselves, I mean, the marketing has been absolutely insane for it, I think definitely means that there is room for cinemas in our digital age going forwards. So at least it's nice to see that the industry of cinemas is definitely being upheld. It's been a crazy Thanksgiving weekend. And now let's just see where the industry goes from here. For now though, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this little video, and I'll see you all in a little bit.